Hello, class. I want to spend a little bit of time here going over my expectations and recommendations on the marketing plan that you're going to be producing. Of course, that's the final project. In week 7 is the synthesized marketing plan, and we have drafts 1 and drafts 2 in the intervening time. And coming up in week 4 is the expectation that your first draft of the marketing plan will be completed. And so I want to give you some information on that, point you to some resources that will help you with that paper. First of all, we've talked a little bit about this in terms of what business you're going to use to write your strategic marketing plan on. I've already mentioned that you've got one possibility, and that's to use the B-Town box business as the company that you're going to do the strategic marketing assessment on. Whether or not you choose to use B-Town box, of course, we're using that case study to kind of walk through our thinking on the different areas of the paper itself. This first draft is covering both the situation and the SWOT analyses. That's point 2 and 3 of the outline. You are free to choose another business if you want. I think we've talked about this early on, but if you're in a business or an organization and you already have responsibilities to prepare a strategic marketing plan, then by all means, go ahead and use that, your current business. I think I also mentioned that a few other people have used potential startups. They were looking to be entrepreneurs and start their own business, and so they used their own potential business as the company that they were going to write their marketing plan on. You're free to use any company you like, but you might find that using the B-Town box is a good way to go. But choose as you desire. So let me talk about the resources that are available for you out there. And in talking about the resources, I'm going to give you an understanding, a picture of what I'm looking for in the paper. There are 2 places to look. One is there's a module that's called Marketing Plan Help Files, Marketing Plan Help Files. And there's a whole, well, not a whole lot, but there are several documents in there. There are several sample papers that you can look at. What I want you to know about the sample papers is I do not like the format at all. I'm going to talk about format in a little bit, but use that in terms of writing style, content, etc. But those sample papers are there to get your juices flowing, but they are not examples of what the format should look like. There is one file in that module, in that Marketing Plan Help Files module, called OWL APA Sample. And I highlight that if for no other reason than to say, if you look at the cover page, it tells you, it shows you how the running head should look and the title page. People have a tendency to put the name of the faculty member on their paper. If you just look at that OWL APA sample paper, the way they have their title page is the way you should do your title page. The second resource I want to point you to is in week 4 module. There's a document there called Marketing Plan Format for Paper. Probably a bad title, but there are 3 different, 2 links and 1 suggestion in that paper. One of the links is to a file called APA Style Basics. And it gives some good advice on APA writing style, particularly as it relates to suggestions on the voice you would use and the formality, informality of your paper, etc. I think it's good for you to read through that. They tend to favor the first voice, but they're also giving those instructions based on original research. And unless you're doing your own startup or your own business, I don't want you to write in the first person. I want you to write, for instance, if you're doing the B-Town box, you're going to be writing in the third person. If you're doing your own startup or you're doing work on your own business, then the first person is fine. The key, of course, is don't swap back and forth between first person and third person. Choose a writing voice and then stick with it. There's another document, another link. It's hard to describe. Anyway, it's the second one in line, and if you click on it, it'll be called the APA heading levels. This is important to me. No class has really gotten this right yet, and I'd love for you to be the first one to do that. Every paper has multiple levels by heading. You've got main headings and subheads and sub-subheadings. And people often aren't quite sure, do I number them? Do I bullet them, etc.? That link to the APA heading levels is exactly what I want you to follow. It shows you how to indent, what kind of typeface, whether it's caps or italics, that the heading should be, where the text should fall in. If you open up the document and you look at it, it becomes pretty clear on how to indent and format all of your different heading levels. So please open up that link and take a look at that. I will be extremely grateful if we can follow that. Now, related to that is just a reminder that this is an academic paper. And because of that, I want you to follow that format. So that format is double spacing. It's Times New Roman, 12 point, and no infographics, no fancy formatting. Because it's an academic paper, you don't need to worry about it looking pretty. It's about the content. It's not about the style. Obviously, if you're preparing a final document for a business, for a company, in some kind of proposal, then do some creative things with formatting, put in infographics, etc. Make it look attractive. You don't need to impress me with fancy formatting. Simple, double space, Times New Roman. Just make it an academic paper. Don't mess around with fancy formatting and changing fonts and all of that kind of thing. What I want to see is evidence of analysis and synthesis and strategic thinking. You don't need filler. It's honestly, I get frustrated when I read papers and I get the sense that people feel like they need to just make it longer to make it better. A short, well-written paper that's concise and shows analysis and critical thinking is perfect. You don't need to try to impress me with length. Impress me with good analysis and succinct writing. Okay, so trust me, believe me, if you've got, you don't need to expand beyond the necessities. I'm not going to be impressed by a long paper. I'll be impressed with good thinking and good analysis. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to share with you. You don't need, if you want to start writing the executive summary, that's the first item, that's the first heading on the paper. The executive summary is simply a brief, succinct description of the company, and you can write that in this first draft. When you produce your final paper, not only is the executive summary a succinct description of the business, but it's also a succinct description of the highlights, the keys for successful marketing of that business. But we'll talk about that later. Okay, a little long here, but I wanted you to get a pretty clear sense of what I was looking for in the paper. Feel free to email if you have any questions. I'm hoping that covers things well. Okay.